fortunate to have been in several startups across multiple industries. I've never been in one that the problem is so in demand to be solved. We've had about $3 billion of spend that's run through our platform, and using a bunch of calculations, looking at a 2-year payback, it works out to roughly 19-20% of every UA dollar spent doesn't pay back, which, in an industry that spent $30 billion in 2024, $6 billion wasted.
What's up, builders? My name's Bobby.
And I'm Renier, and this is How Would You Build It, a podcast where we interview South African startup founders, business builders, and tech innovators.
And if you like our content, make sure to hit that subscribe, follow us for more, and we'll make sure to bring you the best interviews, unique insights to help you build better and stay ahead. Enjoy the show. Welcome, builders, to another episode of How Would You Build It? It's a cold winter's day in Cape Town, but we're coming in hot with another founder. Renier, as always, how are you doing this cold winter's afternoon?
Yeah, great, man. Lucky to be here.
Awesome. And without further ado, I'm really excited because we've got a founder that has a product that's based on data. And as a product manager, that just really tickles, and I love it. And so, Dan, without further ado, the co-founder of Kohort, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good to be here. I've followed Renier and you guys for quite some time, so excited to be here and happy to share some learnings.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm really excited. So, just as a product manager, the concept of cohort analysis is sometimes quite revolutionary for some people when they realize, oh, you can track people in a cohort. You've actually named your company Kohort, which I think is really amazing. But before we dive into the business, I couldn't help but look at your profile as well as your co-founder's profile and see that you guys have been founders since like day one. It's like it's in your blood. And it's just a question that I've been wondering a lot lately is a founder just in your genes that it'll always be there? Because it sounds like you guys, it's just in your DNA, both of you.
I question my life choices every day. I think so. I definitely never used to be one of those that said, "Hey, I want to be X, Y, and Z when I grow up." I just fell in love with building and creating things and just followed that path. I've definitely always gone the industry agnostic route and find a problem, look to solve it. So yeah, I would definitely say it's part of the gene.
Will you ever be employable?
I've got to be careful how I answer that because maybe one day I need to be. So yeah,
Everyone's employable, Dan. Don't worry about it.
I'm the best.
Hey founders, building a startup can be quite lonely. You've got a big vision, no playbook, and let's be honest, your friends don't really get what you're trying to do. But that's where the Founder Collab comes in. It's a private community for early stage founders in South Africa, a space to connect, ask questions, share wins, and get unstuck faster. Whether you're pre-product, post-revenue, or pivoting like a pro, there's someone in the collab who has done it before and ready to help. The best part, it's action-orientated. No fluff, just weekly meetups, intros that matter, and the kind of support you cannot Google. So if you're tired of building alone, come and build with us at the Founder Collab. Check out www.thefoundercollab.com. That's www.thefoundercollab.com. Let's build together.
All right, Dan. So I'll give you the mic to give us a quick rundown on what Kohort is. What problem are you guys solving?
Yeah, sure. I think quite simply put, which ties in with our vision, is we're trying to create a world with zero wasted marketing dollars, not just in gaming for now, but eventually into all consumer apps. It's incredibly difficult to know where and how to place those UA dollars when you in a world today, right, where you've got all the different privacy policies, huge competitors spending hundreds of millions of dollars, your CPIs are flying through the roof, and all you care about is ROAS. How do you find the right return for your spend? And that's what we're trying to solve today.
Hey founders, building a startup can be quite lonely. You've got a big vision, no playbook, and let's be honest, your friends don't really get what you're trying to do. But that's where the Founder Collab comes in. It's a private community for early stage founders in South Africa, a space to connect, ask questions, share wins, and get unstuck faster. Whether you're pre-product, post-revenue, or pivoting like a pro, there's someone in the collab who has done it before and ready to help. The best part, it's action-orientated. No fluff, just weekly meetups, intros that matter, and the kind of support you cannot Google. So if you're tired of building alone, come and build with us at the Founder Collab. Check out www.thefoundercollab.com. That's www.thefoundercollab.com. Let's build together.
So, Dan, coming from a product perspective, one of the big things is having a data culture. I think a lot of people fail it. I've actually been surprised how many companies I've been exposed to that don't have a data culture. When they can actually understand when you're tracking certain data and certain behaviors, you can make educated decisions on what you need to build next. Do you find that like people first need to be sort of told the power of having that kind of data at their fingertips?
As in being told that they need to have that, or what the
Well,
possibilities are.
like knowing that they can, like, it's almost as if they get to a point where they don't know what they don't know, and then you show them, like, listen, look at the kind of data I can show you that can help you make better decisions. You kind of have to cross the chasm somehow and actually get them to like understand the power of data.
I would say probably in some industries, in gaming, no, everyone just knows it's an incredibly sophisticated industry. The challenge on data that we have, which most clients have, is the inconsistency in being able to trust that single source of truth. You've got obviously Apple causing all the chaos from an attribution point of view. So how do you deal with attributing your iOS users? You're dealing with multiple different platforms. So the MNPs, which are doing all the measurement for those campaigns, all have different data retention policies, different settings that need to be turned on. Have you turned it on from day one or not? What do you lose by not having all of those? And that really creates this messy inconsistency around data. And then as much as you want to get the insights out, you can't. So that's more the challenge that we face daily with customers. But yeah, I have seen it in other industries, right, where you go on day by day, you've got all of this data that you're sitting on, and you don't realize the possibilities. That's certainly changing today. AI, it's certainly making it way more accessible.
But then I find that you mentioned the single source of truth, right? And I find it so complicated just to get to a point where you can go, okay, I think this is actually what I'm looking at. So I mean, we do very simple things. Like I mean, we run ads on 2 or 3 platforms, and we've got Google Analytics hooked up to our website, and ultimately we've got this email list, so I can literally see if someone signed up, and then we track some UTM tags. But for the life of me, I cannot find a way to make the data consistent across these platforms, which I find fascinating because you would think it's trivial, but it somehow isn't. Like what Google Analytics reports versus what Meta reports versus what's happening on my signups, like none of those things ever line up whatsoever. So, in the beginning, I just trusted what they said. They said, oh, you're paying, this amount of money for a sign up. I'm like, oh, we're doing fantastic. And then a few months later, you actually check how many people signed up and how much money went off your credit card. And you go, that doesn't make sense. Like, what's happening here? So, so why, why do these people have so many inconsistencies in their data?
That's a billion-dollar question. I think anyone that solves that problem, you're on it. Why are they there? It's just hard. I think maybe what I see between different size of game studios, some have it. Well, it feels like they have it, right? We get the data to our spec really quickly, but there's still inconsistencies. Is that tying between what finance sees from a P&L? Is it tying to what marketing are seeing when they're buying to specific target ROAS? And is it tying up to what product is seeing from an LTV perspective? So you've got different data sources that different types of roles are looking at every single day, and it's hard to tie it together. You spoke about it, right? Meta doesn't care what Google are doing, and vice versa. So they all have their own.
But they all blame each other. They go, no, it must be something that's wrong on the other side.
Exactly. And I think there's so many ways that can go wrong. I was talking to a startup the other day who's trying to solve the sort of standardization of naming conventions in campaigns. That alone is a challenge, right? You've got these
Oh
big
my word.
corporate marketing teams who are spinning up hundreds of campaigns, all different naming convention. Yeah, that's one. But from our side, it's very much around attribution that causes most of our challenges. Where did those users come from?
Yeah.
So you've got the wonderful world of things like organic sniping, where you're paying for users when you shouldn't be, and then trying to tie that back to your marketing team and say, "Hey, CMO, I need more money because look how well we're performing here."
Yeah.
Now, if I listen to what Renier was talking about and what I mentioned, what's the reason that you went into the gaming space? Is it because they were already sort of data native? They were already that way inclined, that they were curious about their data? Is that why you went into that market versus clearly there's a problem in the industry?
Uh, it's an easy answer there. Is my co-founder Angus was very early at King Games, who built Candy Crush. So he felt the pain. He joined as VP of marketing, and he helped them scale to the business they are today by using data and cohort forecasting. The reason we stayed in gaming and certainly are still in gaming today is the sophistication. They all need it solved. There's enough money to throw behind trying to solve this problem. And we get to work with the smartest people in the industry. That's not to say the other industries aren't sophisticated, but to pair that with the sheer volume of installs and players in gaming, it's unmatchable. We get to deal with hundreds of thousands of installs, millions, at any given time. So from a modeling perspective, you get to work with the biggest data sets out there. So at least from a training perspective, that works well. We kind of stay away from subscription-based businesses for now. The argument there is it is easier to predict, so the pain is not as acute, but we'll certainly move into that direction once we nail gaming.
So Dan, I think something that's probably complicated, and I'd love to hear how you're approaching it, is like within an organization. I mean, you mentioned earlier you speak to product, you give data to marketing, you give data to all different kinds of departments. Who's the person within the organization that actually takes ownership of this thing that brings everything together? And I mean, how do you find a champion?
It's a good question. I think we've gone through different stages. I'll dial back sort of the core problem first. So the way we see it is this triangle of pain, we call it, where your finance lead or your CFO is trying to understand how a business is going to perform in the coming year. So they'll ask marketing and say, "Hey, marketing team, how much are you going to spend?" And they say, "Well, that depends on product and how much revenue we get from product." And product says, "Well, we can't give you that answer until we know what kind and how many users we're getting from marketing." And it's a cycle, but this vicious multi-directional problem.
Can attest.
Yeah. And so our product has evolved quite a bit. Whereas the first phase of ours was to build this highly sophisticated cohort-based platform that can ingest billions of lines of data and predict cohorts at a highly granular place, meaning right down to campaign level. That was like phase one for us, and then the first decision path was, well, how do we deploy that? How do we sell it in? And the first thing we started doing was going to data science teams, and we got quite promptly kicked out the room because, hey, we don't want to lose our jobs or be replaced by a tool. We do this already. You can't do it better than us. And they were mostly right, because they get to look at their own data or day in and day out. Fortunately, now we've seen a lot of data, so we've got the argument from an accuracy perspective. But to sell something like this just to data science teams that are doing it all day, you need to be 10x better, and you're not going to be. So then it was like, okay, well, where is that best place? So we focused on the finance teams and on the marketing teams. Finance, we provide a platform that gives them a single source of truth for their forecasting future and why things have changed. So what levers have you got to pull? Maybe your LTV has dropped. Go and talk to the product team. What can they do to improve retention? Likewise in the marketing side. The natural pull for us has obviously been to the marketing teams. Even the finance teams push us to marketing because that's where the largest amount of dollars are wasted. So from a sales perspective, it's quite an easy sell. We go straight to CFO or CMO, and the problem resonates incredibly well. What we do struggle with and still do is who is that champion user? Today we're very much focused on UA leads because we are effectively, for lack of an overused word, a co-pilot for them. We make their day and life better. We give them time back and we help them grow. So they are becoming our champion. In terms of the data champion, it's refreshing to see is it pretty much everyone we work with. I've never been in a business that has had so many eyes and so much scrutiny on the data, because they look at it all day, every day. So we get the questions. Well, this curve looks wrong. Why can we trust this today? Or we've seen this happen. What do you think about it? And it comes from people that you would not expect to be data savvy. So from a data ownership perspective, anyone that's engaging with us and our tool is relying on the data and the insights they get from it. So they own it. And if there's something on their side where, their ingestion team that's sending us the data, haven't done what was necessary, those are the first people to go and shout for it, which is promising.
Mm.
And are you finding like where's your main customers coming from, if I may ask, like which region? Because I feel like the data sort of people that are data mature, the way you're describing it, I struggle to find a lot of those kind of companies in South Africa. So where are you finding your ideal customer profile?
Yeah, none in South Africa for us. Less about the data maturity and just mobile games is not.
It's not a big
mobile game developers here. So most of our clients are across Europe. So France is quite a big base for us. Obviously in the US, around North America, we've got quite a few clients. And in the big hubs are going to be Turkey, Barcelona, Germany's got quite a big contingent of gaming studios. So that's our core spread. We haven't really ventured into the Asian markets yet. We are in the process of that, but I mean that's massive. So we'll see a good growth curve there once we deploy.
You recently got some funding. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's the plans? Hey, what's that?
Our previous CTO said something great. He called it a stay of execution. Everyone gets excited about raising money, but that's not success. You got to keep going. You got to keep building.
So what's the plan? What are you guys planning to do? Are you going to expand into new markets or increase product features? Like where do you kind of see the direction going now?
It's a good question. It's an exciting time for us because we've been so head down building one product, which kind of touches across all the studios as this single platform. But you guys are product guys, you've been around the block. It's so easy to get caught up in what customers want, keep building. The product itself has been in development since 2019. So we have been building for long, and that came out of sort of more consulting and using the tool ourselves and evolving it. But technology changes, new tech comes in constantly, and now is an exciting time for us because we're actually looking at how we're going to now bolt on this product as a completely ground up build. So we're looking at specifically around the UA side of things now, taking all the learnings of what pulls the most from customers, what works, what doesn't work. And we're going to release a very specific UA manager. I won't say too much now, but a very specific UA manager platform, which will be our first entry point into our larger data play. So the bigger goal for us is to capture a huge amount of customers that we're able to then leverage and lean on the learnings from that data. Fortunately, it's cohortized aggregated data, so there's no personal or player level data for us, which is fantastic. But by having insight and access to that, we're able to open up new revenue opportunities for our clients. So today, if you're wanting to enter a new network or a new geo, you're guessing, right? Obviously there are the ones that work. So if you want to buy really cheap users just to test product, there's going to be a region that you're going to go to. If you're going to buy Facebook, iOS, US, it's going to be expensive users, but they're going to monetize well. Those are your top ones that you go for. And then you kind of got to go with what everyone else is doing, because the minute you go and spend somewhere brand new, it's a complete guess, right? It's a dark spot. You have no idea how it's going to perform. We want to shine light on those dark spots by having the data across the entire industry that we can start to pinpoint and advise clients based on a genre to move and shift their dollars with the flow. So this product launch will be the first stepping stone into that. Much lower cost base, which means we can take on the long tail of clients and really help these studios that are spending $500K to $2-3 million a year, which they just don't have these resources. So it moves towards our play of effectively democratizing the 1% for every other studio. So that's where a lot of the funds are going, to really double down on product. And after we release that, so we'll start to look at growth.
Awesome. Dan, I want to go back to the early days. Like, your co-founder comes from this background, which obviously helps subject matter knowledge as well as some relationships. But you start day one, you have to build a product, get a first client. Like, what was that like? Did you have a client lined up? How did you get your first client? What was the product then? How did it change over time?
I suppose there's two answers to that. The first was we got very lucky. So Angus, coming from background at King, he then helped the guys at Small Giant Games scale by applying the same cohort-based forecasting methodology to them and help them understand how much they could spend. So from a CV perspective, you don't have much better, where you've helped Panic scale and you've helped Empires and Puzzles at Small Giant Games scale to exit. So he was in hot demand, and that's kind of where the initial delta of the product was born. He said, I'm not a guy that can sit and count on my fingers. I need a tool to do this for me. Cohort forecasting in spreadsheets is really difficult. And he's like, hey, can we build this? And fortunately, because of his relationship, he had 2 or 3 large, top 20 gaming firms wanting to work with him. So we got to work with them very early, which we be nice to go back to that world, right? We're consulting, we're making really good profit. He's just like to get out of that quickly. But we had these great clients paying us fantastic money, and we were using our efforts with them to build our platform in the background. So our analysts were able to use the tool to give Angus the insights he needed to be at the top of the table in multi-billion-dollar gaming companies, helping to make big decisions. And it was only after 2 or 3 years that we then decided, hey, this tool should have a place to live for the studios. Let's go and test it out. And it's frightening how little I knew back then. I'm always very transparent with that. But I was still able to, on my own, make a sale. And when was this? Mid-2022 it was, we decided, we're going to try and do our first fundraise. We need a few customers. Let's get some traction. And it was frightening. Within the first 3 or 4 months of going to market, and it was very much, the first one was actually inbound. I think they'd heard about us through one of the due diligence projects we had done. And that deal was a £120,000 ACV deal I closed in 6 days, which was remarkable. And it was because of the story, right? And then the next 5 deals, same size, all closed in a range of 6 to 20 days. And we thought we were off to the races, and very quickly your baby gets called back again. You've got to start again. But that was our process. So I think I'm good at building a network. I haven't got a problem talking and selling, especially when I believe in what I have. But it certainly doesn't hurt having someone on your team that has operated at scale. That's also what excited me to actually get involved in the business is, hey, there's something here. I know nothing about it, but let's take a bet. And for me, it was a good.
But Dan, I think you've now touched on a few things that's very important. I think for other founders to understand that the chance of getting, you said you were lucky. I think most founders that have made it were lucky to some degree or another. But to get more lucky, I think there's 2 key ingredients. The one is like a subject matter expert matters a lot, because if you're not a subject matter expert, you don't know what you don't know. And then you waste a lot of time on things you should be knowing. That's the first thing. The second one is, you mentioned that you know a lot more about what you're doing now than you did back then. That level of naivety is almost a superpower, because you just went out knocking on doors, probably not knowing the weaknesses or limitations of the product, but through that process actually got some success because you were naive enough to go and try certain opportunities. So I think that combo, subject matter expert and being naive enough to think that big companies would want to buy this product is what actually gets you to a place to get lucky.
Naive, stupid, one of the two. but it's a good point. Like I said right at the beginning, I've always been industry agnostic in my career. I've not come from a background of spending 10 years in corporate finance or 5 years working for insurance and then building an insurance product. I've always found my strength in the white space and spotting those problems that, as you say, other people either don't see because they're too close to the problem, or they've been at it so long they just think it's impossible. I think I saw a great post. I'll send you the link. I think it was Sequoia. They released their product market fit archetype, and there were three, and one of those being the hard fact. And we are squarely in the hard fact, which is this problem has been around for so long that people are just comfortable with the status quo, and you need to build a novel enough product, that is easy enough to use to displace it. And I think that's certainly where we are here. And then, I think just completely, as you said, bashing down doors and asking questions, being naive about it, it does help. But I'm proud to say that I now know a fair bit about the gaming industry. And I consider myself part of the furniture. It was one of the questions in our last raise, which was because Angus is more an advisor and major invest in the business versus day to day in it. We're fortunate to get his time whenever we need it. But the question was always for Jan and myself. Jan's my other co-founder, who's this is our third business together. But the question was, okay, well, you guys have made good progress, but why are you the right people? You're not from the industry. And I said, well, I've been in this industry now for 6 years. Gaming has only been around for about 11 years in mobile. So I'm there for half the time. And fortunately, when you're not in that space and you're building tech to support it and not within the studios, means I get to see data across the whole studio, across the whole market, that single execs generally spend just an isolated area, and I get to talk from C-suite right down to UA managers or right across to UA managers, which helps my knowledge expand, which has been eye-opening. I mean, you said it earlier, the gaming industry is phenomenal. It blows my mind every day. Just seeing never mind the cash that goes into it, but just the everything about it, how it's built, how it's scaled, the minute metrics that matter. It's quite something.
And I think that's one of the many things that's fascinating is just the absolute scale of it. Like, I mean, many people build a very successful app in South Africa and they'll have a few 100,000 people that use it, maybe even 10,000 or 5,000. But if you talk about a major international successful game, you're talking 50 million plus people that daily engage on that thing. It's enormous.
Flappy Bird.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then small margins make a big difference, right? Like if you can shave off 20 basis points on a cost, or increase margins by a few basis points, it makes an enormous difference on the bottom line.
Well, especially, and I think that's what I think it was pre us starting the recording where you spoke about, I'd love to make a game, I can do it. I think that is the most understated pain, is just the margins are so tight. You've got the app stores taking more than a third of your revenue, and you've got all the different things that plug into it that you could be shooting the lights out, but your margins are fractional. So it makes it really, really difficult. I think the chance of success in building a mobile game studio is certainly not one to shy away from how hard it is. When I first started, the numbers thrown around were 1 in 10. It's definitely harder than that today. It also depends what you want, right? Some people might just want to build a game and have a small team and make a bit of profit and they're happy. But in my experience, everyone getting into the industry here is trying to be the next dream, trying to be the next king. It's not easy.
So how is Kohort kind of playing a role in that story where, to René's point, I want to build a game, I love gaming, to building a game, realizing how much it takes, and then saying, oh, we don't actually have the formula, we need to help get that formula, and you plug in Kohort. Like, what's that journey look like?
Yeah, we're at an interesting intersection of where we fit in, because we've got these two sides of the business. So one is this platform that we're trying to get scale, trying to turn into some form of repeatable ARR business where studios are going to use us to understand how to grow, right? Where to use it, what data to use, where to use it to understand where are we losing money and why? So which campaigns are just not hitting our target payback period? We're then able to use a tool to help them understand what the right payback period is. You'll often hear questions, oh, well, what's your target payback? And the response is 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. And it's these arbitrary round numbers. And the question back is why? Why not day 123 or day 92? And the question is obviously sometimes I don't know. And it's important to understand that. You know, are you optimizing for revenue, or are you optimizing for margin? What is that right DX point? So we help them optimize and find that perfect point for payback. And then once we do that, the tool helps you rebalance your spend. So at a campaign level, so I spoke about it earlier, again, companies with 400 or 500 campaigns, if not more. At that campaign level, what is the right ROAS that you should be targeting at, say, D7 in order to hit your D180 or D365 payback period? We help that. So that's like the rebalancing of spend. And then the future is, you know, how do we help open up more revenue opportunities? That's the platform side where we fit in. So working very closely with the marketing teams to optimize their spend. And then on the other side is we've been very fortunate to be seen as a niche offering because of what our product can do, the data it can ingest, and the insights from it, that we get to work with large private equity firms who will use our team and our tool for M&A transactions, where we help them understand the health of the cohorts, you know, how much juice is
You're sitting on critical data. I mean, they are hungry to understand that stuff. It makes total
They
sense.
don't get that data from us though, so they don't get to share in the benchmarking side of things. But obviously the size of these transactions we work with, it's the biggest game companies out there. So they've got enough data that we ingest, and we're telling a story of the history. So right from the first day of data, using the golden cohort, so the very first cohort, which continues to generate revenue for a long time. And we're able to take all of that data and tell them, one, you know, how sustainable is this business? So what does continuity look like if they carry on doing what they're doing today with no big changes? Is it going to start falling off a cliff? Will they be able to get their private equity returns? Then we help see, well, what's doomsday look like? You know, marketing turns off, or the product just degrades and, you know, LTV falls off a cliff. What's worst case scenario looking like? You know, when are they going to run out of revenue? And then on the upside, we build these UA optimized scenarios. So it says, what if they kill it? What if they can, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5x spend? What does that look like? So that's using the client's only data. We don't make assumptions in terms of, well, we think this team can perform. You know, that's for your big consulting groups that will do that. We focus specifically on the data. So it's quite a nice connected business unit with the studio side of things. It helps provide the clarity and authority of what we're doing. Studios obviously trust that. But yeah, we're still figuring out where is that best place for Kohort around. We've got our vision for where we want to go, but we get to touch so many areas of the industry. We're on the buy side with private equity and VC, and we get to work with studios. So it's quite remarkable.
It's actually, Dan, I think, you know, even small business, I know this is not your focus, but I can imagine for small businesses, a tool like this could be super useful. Like
100%.
People spending 10 to 30,000 Rand a month on paid media across different platforms, you know, getting data, want to have a clear cost per acquisition, want to calculate their ROAS, like start cohorting campaigns. I mean, just for me to keep track, like which campaign is which one, who are we targeting here? Like, it's a freaking nightmare. It's like 20 clicks away, and then you still kind of, what was the context? Why did we set it up this way? You know, it's extremely, extremely hard. And it's so funny because if you've never run ads on a digital platform for a sustainable period of time, you have no idea this problem exists. But as soon as you've tried to manage a campaign on 2 different platforms, trying to get metrics that helps you make better decisions, you realize just this is super complicated.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, the cross vertical for us is hard because of the data that's being required. You know, you can't be buying 5, 10 users a day and expect to be able to be accurate with forecasting. That said, most of the previous work we've done has always been with the long tail of data from the beginning, but this new product that we're building will effectively plug straight into an MMP, you know, up and running same day. And because it's doing more short-term ROAS predictions for UA spend, we don't need as much data as before. So we're working through that, trying to get a feel for what level of data we need. Once we've nailed that, we'll start to look at what the next adjacent industry is that we go to. And so for us, it's less about how much they're spending and more what are the daily in-stores looking like. So
Yeah, I'm thinking about the concept of vitamins and painkillers. It's like realizing the people that it's not a vitamin, it's actually a painkiller. I mean, Renya's in a lot of pain by the sounds of things. You've got a customer there.
he's not alone.
And then these things seem to break and you don't know why. It's like, why is it not serving? I don't know what's going on.
I must say, I mean, as you said earlier, I'm fortunate I've been in several startups across multiple industries. I've never been in one that the problem is so in demand to be solved, which makes my job easier from a sales perspective. Obviously, I have a lot harder to solve, but it is, we've done some calculations on our side. We've had about $3 billion of spend that's run through our platform, and using a bunch of calculations, looking at a 2-year payback, it works out to roughly 19-20% of every UA dollar spent doesn't pay back, which, in an industry that spent $30 billion in 2024, it's $6 billion wasted. Waste is a strong word, right? Inefficient spend. We like to say wasted though, but so when you're looking at that, it doesn't matter if you're top 2, top 1, top 5 game studio spending hundreds of millions of dollars or spending 10,000 Rand or 20,000 Rand. You all have margin, you all have your way of growth, and every base point counts. So if we can help improve that, that's gold for us.
So I want to touch, like, you've obviously been on a very interesting journey. You talk about like how you didn't know about the industry and you've had your co-founders who are subject matter experts. How have you aligned? Can you give us, for our listeners and viewers who are also founders, trying to align, trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page? Do you have any guidelines, tactics, or advice for them that you guys have done to keep aligned, keep learning, keep iterating, keep that feedback loop going for the business?
Aligned as in co-founders. It's not easy. No, I mean, everyone's going to feel, well, as you say, it depends where your subject matter expertise come from, right? In our relationship, Angus, gaming domain expert, been there, spent billions of dollars, has never built tech before, is not a SaaS guy, is not a subscription, is not that. So he's got his way of what he wants. You've got Jan, who's a product guy, he's built tech, he's built SaaS. That's oil and water, right? It's really hard because you've also got that split between, I know what I want to build because I felt the pain. I'm an expert, and Angus really is. You don't get many Anguses out there in terms of his capability and what he's done. So you've got to build for where he feels that pain and what that problem is. But then you've got a Jan, and obviously a me on that side also, who's like, well, we've got to talk to 50 customers and we've got to get their feedback. And there's that very fine line between customer feedback from a form versus functional side of things, and you've got domain expert going, this is a problem that no one has been able to solve. So asking for input is going to go against the grain of what I want. So you've got to find that balance. And how we do it is you got to communicate as much as you can. It was really hard at the beginning because of our lack of domain, right? You can't argue with someone that's got all the domains. So getting completely up to speed on the domain as much as I could was important and was always going to be the case. And you've got to have a level of trust, right? You've got to be able to know where your voice has an input and where you've got to actually turn around and say, I'm going to listen. This is what you believe. This is your domain. And Angus does the same. He knows we know product, we know SaaS, we know subscription, we know sales side. So you've got to just trust. You're in it for a reason. You've partnered for a reason, and you know what skill sets you have. But it's not easy. It is a challenge.
Are you guys co-located or are you guys working remote?
Jan and I are both Cape Town. When I say I'm Cape Town, I'm kind of half the year in London, and Angus is between London and Cyprus. So we see each other when we get together as much as we can. The team is split between Cape Town and London on 2 bases, and then a few across Europe.
Yeah, because that's when
And
it becomes difficult to stay
oh,
aligned when you're, and then
so
you have
hard.
to match, diaries.
The alignment is less of a problem because you don't sit and have these alignment conversations all day every day. You build it,
Yeah.
you go, and say, right, this is what we're doing, and in a month's time we're going to align again and see how we're performing. I think we've lost Renier there. And but it's more. I mean, we can talk for hours on the work from home, work remote pain, right? But we feel it because we can't have an all-in office all day because we are
Mm.
distributed. But you do feel that lack of strategic, lack of just cohesive workiness of sharing ideas. It's really difficult.
That's why I'm asking, because
Yeah.
for someone that also works quite remotely, you feel that, right? And it makes it hard. And you're trying to solve big problems or hard problems. It does help when you've got your peeps right around you. So yeah, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, we get together as much as we can. We bring the UK team here. We head over there as frequently as it allows. And when we do, the real magic does happen. But it's
Mm.
I suppose having that balance. You can't have it all on all the time. I do feel we're obviously still an early stage startup, but the businesses starting up now in this fully remote world, it's really difficult. I wouldn't, if I was starting again today, it would be with a team, in my room going like I would dream of dream of doing it any other way.
Mm. So as we come to the end, I think, yeah, Renee is there. Obviously in the world of AI, we like asking this question, which is how do you AI? So in this world of remote, in this world of trying to, build a business, how is AI helping you and your team and your founders?
My team are going to hate me because I'm going to boast about winning currently on the top of the leaderboard of our AI internal challenge, being the
Let's
non-tech guy.
go.
Hopefully, it's going to push them a bit more. Yeah, we fully embraced it, obviously with caution. For myself personally, I'm testing everything. I'm building my own apps in whatever time I have, just to see what's possible, what's not.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was an interesting one the other day. The BI front end for our platform is Looker, which is obviously really old, really ugly, kills me every day. And we were having a conversation of what it would take to completely overhaul the front end. And the obvious comments back is, it's going to take time. And I don't believe for 1 second AI will just overhaul it in 1 second. But I was able to, with having zero JavaScript and Looker capabilities, was able to take the JavaScript file out of Looker for the Looker custom display, build the design that I wanted in Vercel, have Claude rewrite the JavaScript from Vercel to match the JavaScript from Looker, one shot it back to my front end lead. He put it into Looker and it updated the tables to exactly what I wanted it to. And that was within
Amazing.
15 minutes. Obviously, you've got to test latencies and all of those sorts of things, but that was not possible. So we're leaning into that kind of stuff, right? Being able to quickly test, iterate, for me to be able to have my vision of what I want something to look at come to life in front of me and then give it to someone. I mean, you can't argue with that. That's me. So
No, for sure.
we,
But
we're leaning in hard on that, and just wherever we can within the business to optimize.
but Dan, I mean, that's probably one of the most useful things for me, right? So, and you've built consumer-facing apps before, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The most frustrating thing is the disconnect between how you imagine something should work and look, and then translating that into a wireframe, getting that into a design thing, getting that actually developed. And then it's 2 months later, you've learned a bunch of new things. You look at this, you go,
Yeah.
this is actually nothing like I wanted it to be. Like, it's just the biggest waste of time and money
Yeah.
in software. Like, now you can literally go and fool around for an hour on Lovable or Replit or something equivalent, and like just get the feel of, okay, this is kind of what I want, but maybe do this a bit different. And that for briefing software teams, it's the most useful tool ever.
Especially with the ability to not even just wireframe, but full prototype, right? Like
Yeah,
click it.
actually click around and feel it.
I mean, it does get to the point though where you start swearing at the AI because you ask it to change something and then it changes everything else. And
It
you go,
breaks
so,
the whole thing.
yeah. But yeah,
Safe
I think
versioning.
Yeah, exactly. For the non-technical people listening, though, challenge yourself to go straight to Claude Code if you're on Mac. I mean, I don't know if it's on PC, but like my engineers were impressed that I was able to do it, and it wasn't hard. Like I'm not a technical person at all, but the capabilities of Claude Code over a Vercel or Lovable, I found light years ahead. So it's been remarkable to see it in action. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and just manage expectations. I mean, that's not necessarily production code, but it is a good prototype to show someone to go, this is what I have in mind.
absolutely. Yeah. I think there's definitely those people that do think that it's, hey, I can do this in 5 minutes. I don't need developers. No, the engineers are the ones that are here to stay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see
Agreed.
where it goes to. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Renier, any last questions?
Yeah, maybe Dan, something I'm curious about. What was in this startup that you're currently building, like what was surprisingly hard that you thought would have been easier to do?
Everything. Yes,
That is an acceptable answer.
yeah. No, I think just trying to pick which route to go. Just the sheer difficulty of solving the problem. Like I've always gone into businesses, and I don't know if it's the right way to say it, but they're like copycat businesses. Magnetic was a CRM workflow system. Yeah, we isolated it for agencies, but there's hundreds of them, if not thousands. Even Todd was marketplace driven. This has been something that we haven't had anyone to copy. We've had to learn, we've had to make bold decisions, and stand behind them when you've got clients who are looking at you, who are spending literal hundreds of millions of dollars, saying, "Hey, we're trusting you, and we're trusting your decisions with this because you are the experts." That getting to that point and being able to trust ourselves, to trust that, was incredibly difficult because, as I said, you've just got to share believe what you're doing. You've got to trust the data, and you've got to get to that point effectively as quickly as you can, right? When you're taking venture money, but that for me was incredibly difficult.
Well, Dan, thank you for sharing these insights and the rawness of it all. It's really cool. And like I said, love the concept, love the product. I look forward to seeing it out there in the wild and growing and taking on the world because,
And
I think there's
eventually build a product for people like me who's struggling.
You can be our
listen to your
first
users,
test
eh?
case. You can be our first
Gladly.
non-gaming, our first non-gaming test case. You can,
Let's do it.
as
No,
long as your
we
data is
first
good.
adopters, yeah. We early adopters. We're happy to be your test dummies.
As long as your data is good, otherwise we won't accept you.
And I get horrible
Oh, that
data from
hurts.
Meta and all of these other platforms. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Brilliant.
Cool, Dan.
Thanks,
Renier,
guys.
thanks, Dan.
guys, thanks very much.
Cheers,
Cheers, man.
Bobby.